the product demo with Transpose, brought to you by Metrics DAO. We are going to start in a moment, so get comfortable and we'll start very soon. Okay, let's kick this off. So welcome everyone to today's product demo with Transpose. We have Michael with us, who is the co-founder, who's going to give you an introduction of this and as well as walk you through the product so you can learn and how you can get started using Transpose for analytics needs. And we all will have workshops coming up with Transpose that will give you an even deeper understanding of how can you start this tool. Before we dive into Transpose, I'll just give a quick introduction about the product demo, which is Metrics DAO. So Web3 analytics community. So we work with various organizations that need their data analytics to be done. We also have a community of about 5,000 talented analysts that are actively going our various educational programs and attending kinds of workshops just like this one, upskill themselves and become expert Web3 analysts. So we have a bunch of opportunities available and constantly coming up in the community. And if you are interested in checking these opportunities, do go over to our website and as well as join our Discord server where we constantly update the community members of what's currently happening in the DAO. Okay. So next time, more and I will give the mic over to Michael, co-founder of Transpose, walk us through Transpose tool. So Michael, over to you.
Vida, thank you so much. And thanks a lot to Metrics DAO and you for organizing and hosting this event. I'm excited to be here and share a little bit more about what we're building at Transpose, and then dive into what it looks like to actually go ahead and get started with us. So to start at the top, Transpose is a real-time data platform that makes it really easy to access crypto data directly in your application. Makes it really easy to pull down large amounts of data, run your own analysis, and we have a bunch of tools that we offer to our community to make this happen. So the two main ways that people interact with our data today are our REST API and our SQL API. Today we're going to be doing a little bit of a demo and run through the SQL API through the playground. So I'm going to pull this up right here. The playground is our environment for exploring SQL queries. So we're going to open up a new query here. And then before I dive any deeper, I'd just like to talk through the data that we have here. You can see this on the left-hand side. So I'm going to just blow this up a little. So we index a lot of different chains. You can run cross-chain queries against any of this. A big, very important factor for us from the beginning was creating a really organized data structure that makes it very easy to find the information that you care about. So what this looks like in practice is 3 layers, starting with settlement as the lowest layer, with asset layer built on top, and then finally protocol layer is the most abstract layer. This provides a lot of helpful abstractions that make it a lot easier to actually get what you want from blockchain data. So to start with what people are most familiar with in the settlement layer, we have accounts, blocks, transactions, logs, and traces. These are the primitives that you'll be familiar with from node providers and RPC providers, very standard. We index everything at a low level, so you can always use things like logs and traces to reconstruct history yourself if you want, but obviously that's pretty involved and most people don't like to do that. So that's why we provide these abstractions on top. So let's explore this a little bit. Here we have all of our asset level info. So this covers everything from basic NFT transfers and token transfers to ownership, as well as an actual enumeration and metadata around all of these items. So let's go ahead and write our first SQL query. We're going to try pulling some token transfers. Thanks, Albert. Also, please, if you guys have questions at any point, feel free to just jump in and shoot a message over. I'll be watching the chat. I want to make this as interactive as possible. If there's something you're interested in learning more about, let me know and we can take things in that direction as well. I'm excited to have everybody here. Cool. So we're going to start with just a simple little query here. We'll say NFT transfers, and we'll get the say the 10 most recent ones. So here's what I'm going to do. What we're doing is we're doing select all from ethereum.nft transfers. This is accessing the NFT transfers table that we're looking at right here. Things are a little squashed on my screen because I've zoomed in a lot, but you can see all of the fields that we have here normally. Then we're ordering it by the timestamp field, which you can see right here. This will, in descending order, this gives us most recent ones, then we can limit it just to the most recent 10. So we're going to go ahead and run that. You can see the query runs almost instantaneously. This doesn't factor in, obviously, round trip time. But you can see we got some fresh data here from really just a few seconds ago, which is exciting. And it's great. Let's take a look at what we've got here. This is, to anyone that is familiar with NFT transfers, this is the data that is associated with the transfer events themselves. It's pretty low level. It doesn't include anything about the exchanges that were involved, if these were sales, but it does tell you that the tokens were transferred from one address to another, as well as the associated information. You can always go ahead and click, for example, a transaction hash. It'll open it up in Etherscan just to make things a little bit easier. Same with the block numbers. It's all directly available in LinkedIn, but this isn't super helpful on its own. This is what you get with a lot of data providers. Thanks for the question, Albert. My favorite feature is probably these abstract tables and the fact that you don't have to work with really low level information. So now I'm going to show a slightly different example. We're going to switch to NFT sales. So this is setting me up perfectly here, Albert. Here you can see we're actually parsing this on the exchange level. This includes information about aggregator. It includes price, royalty, platform fees, all the associated data there. It makes it a lot easier to actually get at some of this information and start aggregating it. And that's where things can get exciting, is you can do powerful joins, you can pull much larger amounts of data really quickly, so you can see 1,000 items in just 60 milliseconds. If you extrapolate that for all NFT sales with the parallelism that we support, you can really do quite a lot. So now I'll maybe talk through some of the other data that we actually cover here at the protocol level. So on the NFT side, we've already kind of mentioned the NFT sales. Another one that's very interesting. Yeah, the joins certainly can be fun. It can get pretty hairy, but I have a little tool I want to show you guys in a little bit that I think will be helpful there. A couple of others I want to call out real quick. first of all, the DEX data that we have really comprehensive DEX data covering swaps, pools, and liquidity, which allows you to reconstruct a really complete picture of what's happening on each DEX at any point in time or real time. So why don't we go ahead and take a look at this? So we're going to pull some recent DEX liquidity items. Let's see. Okay, we got some Uniswap v3 liquidity events here. Okay, it looks like we have swap events that are getting tracked. Okay, here's a deposit event. So we can see that we've got all of the associated information here, who is depositing how much. For the fields where it makes sense for these events, you have the right data populated. It's really cool stuff. You can do some really advanced analysis. We're working with a number of hedge funds and trading firms who are using this liquidity data at the moment to backtest trading strategies and to actually generate trading signals. So it's cool to be able to get at this kind of data so easily. Let me go ahead and show DEX swaps. Very similar. Excuse me, guys. Very similar. You can see what we've got going on. This is a little bit more tailored towards actually swap transactions. You can see the effective price that swaps happened at, exactly what tokens were involved, aggregators, exchanges, every bit of information you'd want to know. So what's super cool about all of this data that we have is that it allows us to extract really the most complete on-chain view of token prices that you can find. So I'm going to go ahead and switch over to the token prices table. This one is really simple. Just block number, timestamp, token, symbol, and then price. And so what this lets you do is to use Albert's favorite joins. This lets you join between this data and things like sales, balances, anything that you're curious about to get really accurate pricing for any piece of activity, either historically or in real time. The coverage space that we have here is really big. So we're covering everything from WETH and your top tokens like that, all the way through to some really obscure tokens that very few of us would have heard of. But anything that does liquidity on DEXs, we're picking up. And we do a lot of post processing and work to make sure that we're not picking up outlier prices and things like that. That's always a challenge. MEV throws things off quite a lot with these kinds of prices. But still, it's pretty cool to work with. So why don't we go ahead and try to see if we can find WETH. Let me try it with the symbol first, and then we'll see if we can get this. There we go. And so you can see most recent Ethereum prices were pretty close to 2,000. That's pretty exciting. Some pretty cool price action the last couple of days. Let's see if we can pick up Bitcoin. I'm not sure if that's might be with the uppercase W. Yeah, here we go. Ah, see that? Wow, over 3,000. It's 30,000. I mean, it's a good day. Oh no, Sean, sorry to hear that. Happy you made it through though. We were just kind of running through the Transpose platform, showing off some of the tables that we're offering, as well as some of the functionality here. Always happy to answer any questions in our Discord if there's any questions. Hey, Ann, great to hear that. The SQL stuff can get pretty intimidating for sure. Always happy to help with any questions in our Discord, but we do also have a couple tools I'm going to show you guys in just a second that can make that a little bit easier. Not going to be doing any overly complex SQL today. We'll be using this more as an opportunity to see what we have available, and then I'll leave it up to you all to go and dive in. Sean, just to give you the boilerplate, we're a real-time data platform that makes it really easy to pull crypto data, on-chain data, and interact with it. And so here, what we're looking at is our graphical interface, which connects directly to our API in the back end, and lets you stream data. And so here we're displaying it really easily, but the most exciting thing about Transpose is exporting your queries and getting things in code, so that you can actually integrate via API and work in Jupyter notebooks or wherever you want to run more interesting analysis. Cool. So that's kind of the basics on a lot of the protocol tables. Maybe one last one, or I'll do a couple more here. So one that I thought was pretty cool when we launched it was Tornado Cash withdrawals, pools, and deposits. This gives you a little view into who is using Tornado Cash and all of the mixer forks. So you can see we're covering some of that. Let's go ahead and take a look at what this data looks like. So here you can see we got the exact mixer that's involved, all the different forks. There's a lot of activity, it looks like. Well, definitely a lot less than there used to be. You can see exactly how much, where it's going to. This really helps to piece together a picture of what's actually happening with these mixers, which, especially with all the sanctions stuff, can be some pretty interesting analysis for all of you metricians. But we can go ahead and take a look at deposits as well. Let's just see what they got here. Yeah, so we can see that they're depositing the correct amounts, everything. It's all coming together. It's pretty cool to actually see all the data stream live. And big thing about Transpose, you can't see this here because a little bit delayed with Tornado. There's obviously not a lot of activity happening anymore, but our data is really fast. So our typical indexing time is about 3 to 5 seconds, which means you're getting data minutes faster than you are with a lot of other platforms out there, and you're able to catch things as they're happening. With some of the big hacks and exploits that have unfortunately happened the last year or so, it's been really cool watching it all play out in real time through Transpose. And I've got some cool queries I'll show you guys in a little bit that talk to some of that. So last protocol I want to just do a little call out, or protocol category I want to call out, is bridge events. This is a really interesting and unique data set that you can't get elsewhere. So we're going to go ahead and run that. We're just pulling bridge events here, you can see. And so this actually is tracking dozens of different bridges. You can see the names, the contract versions, the actual contracts, all the tokens involved, the quantities, the chains it's going from and to, any associated metadata for matching it with a received transaction. But this is super powerful because you can all of a sudden track flows across chain, because at the moment you can do multi-chain queries as well. This means that you can build some pretty interesting queries with this. So I see you're getting a question from N here. Can the database be pulled into the local arm to run queries on command line? Absolutely. So you can access Transpose through API. We're primarily built to be accessed through API. This graphical experience that I'm showing you guys right now is the easiest way to get started, but there's a lot of limits to what you can do in the browser like this. So for the full experience with kind of some of our bigger customers, we really work with them. It's all through code that they're reading our data. Yeah, so you can I'll actually show you guys right now. So one thing that we offer is custom endpoints that allow you to deploy SQL like this to an API. You always also have the option of calling it through our SQL API directly. So I showed this earlier, but I'm going to just show it again real quick. Here you can see we're passing in really very simple data in the body and then sending a post request with Python to our SQL API with our API key included as well up there. And this will give us our data in milliseconds in our code directly. And so you can copy this to a Jupyter notebook or wherever you're working, We support things like curl as well if you're interested in that. Wherever that is. Curl is gone. So you can really easily use that. That's powerful and really cool, but especially for production kind of scale use, we always recommend people to use custom endpoints. So here I'm going to show this off. Actually, well, first, why don't we go ahead and save this. We call this metric style bridge query. Okay, we're going to go ahead and click save. Great, so we have our query there. So just to explain what's going on a little bit before I dive into that. Right now we're working with queries. This is SQL queries. You can see we have a whole bunch of them here. We do also have endpoints. So what endpoints are is dedicated endpoints that let you, in a parameterized way, call SQL queries that you create. So let's just go back to our query here. What I think we're going to do is we're going to actually go ahead and add a parameter here. So we'll, what I've done is I've deleted our limit. I'm going to go ahead and add a parameter. I'm going to call this one lim. Create the parameter, set the default to 100. Cool. So now we have this parameter. We're going to go ahead and hit save on our query again. What this now lets us do is, you know what? I always forget your semicolons. So what we're going to go ahead and do now, you can see it's calling that with the number of items that we passed in. If we switch it to a different number and rerun that, you can see it's giving us exactly what we're looking for. This is really cool because you can set up queries to track, for example, sales volume for an NFT collection and have the collection address be a parameter you can pass in. So it's super easy to get the data you want. So then what you can do is go ahead and, in fact, you know what, we'll do another one. We'll do one for from chain. So we'll do where from chain ID equals from chain. Cool. And we'll say this is Ethereum for now. So we'll run this. Let's see. Oh, you know what? I think we need to stringify. No, missing parameter. What am I doing here? Okay, you know what? I think we're not going to use that parameter right now. We'll figure that out after. Cool. So now we can go ahead and try to deploy this. Let's see. So this pulls up all existing endpoints that we have. When you deploy to an endpoint, you don't overwrite the endpoint. They're actually fully versioned and immutable. This makes them really reliable if you're working with a team or in an environment that has lots of collaborators. For now, we're going to go ahead and set up a new endpoint. So you see what this will look like for us when we're calling is api.transpose.io/endpoint/metrics.test. We're going to go ahead and create it. And then we're going to deploy it. Fantastic. And so then we go into our endpoints. You can see at the top here, we have our new endpoint here. Super simple. You can copy that like that or call it directly with a GET request now instead of a POST request, so you don't need to pass a body. Super convenient, even easier to use in your code than the SQL API, and it lets you keep track of versions. So you can, I don't know how accurate is highlighted there, but you can actually see multiple versions. Maybe your team is collaborating. Maybe you change things over time and improve your queries, optimize them. There's a lot you can do here. Super cool. So let's go back to our query here. A tool I want to highlight real quick, and then we can jump into some questions if anybody has them, is our AI query assistant. So this is a new bit of functionality we've been working on. Super excited about this. It actually runs on GPT-4 under the hood. and it lets you do some pretty nifty things. So why don't we see if this can give us the total USD sales volume for the last 24 hours for NFTs. We'll call it that. So as a reminder, let's pull up the NFT sales table. This is what we're going to be working with. So we'll say give me a query that returns the sum of USD, let's see, USD price for all NFT sales on Ethereum in the last 24 hours. And then we're going to hit generate SQL. Let's see. This doesn't always give you the correct answer. So this is a great starting point. And to some of the questions that we had earlier about joins from Albert, it can get pretty complicated working with heavier SQL. This makes it a lot easier to actually start doing this. So here we're getting super easy answer. It gave us exactly what we're looking for. So just to run through this query that it generated, we're returning the sum of USD price, named total USD price from Ethereum NFT sales, every time for every timestamp in the last 24 hours. Really cool because that gives us exactly what we were expecting. Very exciting. Can see we can go ahead and change these the times if we wanted to. Not bad, not bad. Not quite where we were back in the day, but 83 million in the last day and a half. But the point is, you can get pretty creative with this. So we can continue using AI query assistant. Yeah, so that's a really good question, Sean. There is. We've spent quite some time fine tuning the model to make it work really well with our data. This includes a bunch of clever pre-prompting things. We're feeding in our schema. You can, of course, recreate this yourself, and we're actually supporting a bunch of really awesome companies that are building their own NLP integrations for blockchain data. One thing, you'll get a lot more out of the box if you use us versus GPT-4. If you're going to take a lot of time to tune GPT-4 to work with our schema and with the way kind of some of the quirks of Transpose SQL, you can get the same results, of course, anywhere else. It's just it's convenient and all that. Hey, Alice. Yeah, good question. Let me go ahead and share our Twitter. Here is our Twitter. Definitely suggest everyone to follow us, keep up with what we're working on. How do I enter the chat? Maybe Vida could help me out here a little bit.
Yeah, I'm happy to share the socials in the chat right now. So don't worry about it, Michael.
Cool. Thanks. Yeah, well, happy to take any other questions that people have. If there's anything you'd like me to try out and to run through now, more than happy to take the time to do so. A lot of exciting things that we're working on as well. Thank you very much. Yeah, a lot of exciting stuff in our roadmap, so happy to talk about that as well if anyone's interested. Just really excited to have you all here, and thanks for listening today.
Okay, thank you everyone for attending the session today. We still have some time for questions. So if you have any questions, then feel free to drop them in the chat. And yeah, Michael will answer them. Actually, we have one question that has just popped up here in the chat by Albert. So, Michael, are there any openings in your product team at the moment?
Yeah, that's a good question. We're not growing the team at the very moment. We've just grown quite a lot over the last few months, so we're settling in and getting everything figured out. But we will be growing a lot more, judging by the demand we've had for Transpose. So definitely stay in touch and keep active around our Discord and Twitter, and you'll definitely hear there as soon as we're looking for people. And I can just kind of go up the list here. So getting started with basic queries, that's a great question. Something that I haven't shown that can be really helpful is the Atlas. So I'm going to go ahead and click on this at the top here. So the Atlas is actually shared queries by our community and team. You can see the number of times each query has been forked and the number of times it's been run at the top here. But this is super cool. This lets you basically access all of the wisdom and brilliant analysis run by our community and take advantage of that without having to write all of the SQL yourself. So here, for example, is a query published by Patrick, our head of indexing, that is fetching mint price and gas fee for NFT mints. This is something that sometimes is a little bit of a pain to get. So here you can see the SQL here, the NFT address that he's got there, and then all of the associated data coming out here with all the fees, the gas, any associated data. Super cool. And if we wanted to use it, all we do is click open in Playground here, and that would open it up for us to edit and play with as we wish. So Sean, yeah, that's a great question. So top three differences between us and Flipside. We're tailored at a slightly different kind of core target audience. One of the biggest thing about us is that we're very much real time, both on the indexing and on the query support. This means that you can build an application on top of Transpose directly, fetching data, and a lot of our big customers actually do this today. So say you're building a wallet app, say you're building a new protocol, and you need access to customer activity, you need to display things to your users. We can fetch you that data in milliseconds, and it's going to be only 3 to 5 seconds delayed. Whereas Flipside is really tailored more for analytics and analysis and focuses on that. The other big difference is on the data coverage. We've taken a slightly different approach to that problem of covering data from the Flipside team. So at Flipside, you guys have gone horizontal and cover a lot of different blockchains, lots of different data types, but there's not always as much depth for specific bits of data. So, for example, with NFT sales, we track more NFT marketplaces on the chains that we do cover, and we have fewer chains. But for those chains that we do cover, we have more data on that kind of stuff. So yeah, that's a really great question. Always love to chat about that one. And on the visualization side, no, we also don't support out of the box visualizations. This is another you could think of as a limitation, but really the reason we don't support visualizations is because the main way people interact with Transpose is with our APIs. So you would use like a Jupyter notebook or something like that to display data. This has gotten a lot easier with tools like GPT, which can really write all of the code for you and let you use a combination of endpoints and transpose SQL with our query assistant, as well as some light graphing and things like that with Python, for example, to do visualization. So this is kind of the types of data science and analysis that we typically support. How do you get data from tokens that are multi-chain? So when tokens are multi-chain, if you could provide me some specific examples, I'd be happy to comment on that. But in general, you're going to have tokens just deployed to multiple chains. So they'll have their own contract addresses, and you'll be able to find kind of separate data there. You could always just combine, do like a union on the different token addresses for various activity or something. But we support multi-chain queries, and we do have cross-chain data. It's all very consistent and standardized. So it's pretty easy to get at what you're looking for. One last thing, maybe I want to call out real quick, actually. In our documentation, we have a great little guide that takes you through things. So quick start, which will make it really easy to get started using Transpose SQL to actually send requests. Very convenient. Then we have a list of all the data that we have available. This is very exhaustive, but you can see everything. And then let's dive into NFT sales for real quick. For example, you can see we do list out the exchanges that we support, but also critically the indexes. So this is not something we've talked about yet, but one of the big focuses for us is, as I mentioned, supporting real-time querying and real-time access of our data. For that to be the case, you need to use indexes in intelligent ways. So we spent a lot of time designing indexes that cover all of our data. So you can look things up by contract address, by buyer, by seller, by transaction. But long story short, you need to optimize for indexes if you are going to be running bulkier queries. The good news is that you don't have to do this yourself. You can feed your queries into the query assistant and then tell it to optimize for indexes, and it'll do that. It's pretty smart. So always suggest doing that. You can check out the index information here. Awesome to hear that, Ed. Good luck. Let us know if you have any questions or issues. We're always happy to help answer things in our Discord. Happy to take any other questions if anyone has them.
Okay, so if you missed a part of the session, also, I just wanted to make you aware that this session is going to be available on YouTube, so you can rewatch it there. And also, we will be hosting 2 more workshops on Transpose. So these are going to be great opportunities to dive into Transpose and to learn how you can utilize the best of it. So here is a registration form that I've just posted in the chat to ensure that you don't miss the upcoming workshops. And if you have any more questions, as Michael mentioned, you can just join the Transpose Discord server. The link was shared earlier, and you can ask any questions there. And I see actually there was one more question here in the chat, Sean, and he's asking, was there a button for optimization?
Sean, yes, this is a great question. I kind of glossed over that. But if you write a query and it's not very optimized, this is a simple one. But say you write a bad query, all you'd have to do is copy your query, open up the AI query assistant, post it in, be like, here is an unoptimized SQL query. And then you could give it and then be like, please optimize this to use indexes. Hit generate SQL. It'll give us the same thing because we're already using all the indexes we'd need here, which is probably timestamp. But you can just pass it right in like that and it'll help. Again, it's not always 100% correct. The way you ask questions matters a lot, as with any large language models. We do have, oh boy, that's not what we want. Yeah, so as with any large language model, it can sometimes give things that you're not expecting, but it works a lot of the time, and we do have some great docs on how to actually get great results from it. So if we go to Query Assistant, you see we have some information here on optimizing as well. We also allow access to our query assistant. Yeah, Sean, it did. So when you click to generate a query, it'll overwrite what you have going on. So that's something to look out for. But you can actually also access the query assistant via API. We charge credits for using it the same way as we charge for kind of the rest of Transpose. We're going to be adding this to the documentation shortly, but you'll be able to take advantage of this directly in your projects as well.
All right. Thank you, everyone, for your questions. And thank you and Sean for being so active today in the chat. We really appreciate all of your questions and your interests. And as I mentioned, we will be having follow-up workshops. So if you want to dive deeper, there's great opportunities, and the link is shared in the chat. So if there are no more questions, then I guess we can finish for the day. Before we drop off, Michael, is there anything you'd like to say?
Yeah, well, I'd just like to thank you and Metric staff for organizing and hosting this session. It's been great to come and chat to everybody. We're always happy to take any other questions in our Discord. Afterwards, I suggest everyone come stop by, say hi, share what you're working on. Got a great little community over there. Really looking forward to all of our upcoming workshops and sessions. Very excited to dive deeper. We're going to be taking those kind of in a more case study focused way, where we'll be working through a couple more specific data problems. So super exciting to get to dive in to see how things work. Hey, Potmo, good to see you, buddy. Yeah, but thank you all for your time. Very happy to be here, and yeah, have a great day, everybody.
Michael, and we'll see you in future workshops and events.